Here we go. Excuse me. Episode 40, session 40 of our campaign. And when last we left off, and I should tell anybody who's watching that we have sort of decided that this will be the closing chapter. Our heroes are returning home to Reuna, and we're gonna close out on this story and see how each of them ends up. So let's have a look at where we're at in the world. This is the extent of the explorations that have occurred so far. And last time there had been some goings on in Pojoinen in the north there, and Paiviki, Taimi, and Muirin had headed south to the settlement of Hukurut, which is here in sketch form. Hukurut, which is in the middle of a lake. It's a town on stilts with wooden walkways, and the people get from area to area using coracles or canoes or rafts. And this place has managed to remain free of Korkine rule from the very beginning of the colonization of this, or the attempted colonization of this continent by the Korkine. They did so by flooding the whole area that the town is in by breaking a dam upriver, and so doing, like, drowning a bunch of Korkine soldiers. And then there was kind of a truce between the leaders of Hukurut and the Korkine, and the town has been kind of allowed, or has asserted its independence, and enjoys trade with people coming from different directions, from Reuna in the west, from Pojoinen and the coastal villages to the north, from the capital and Sakagara. So it's actually a bit of a market, a trading hub, and also has a reputation for being a shady place where the law is imposed by the market chief, whose name is Rupa. So you guys know that much. You've heard of Rupa Railukaupa, who at this point, this long after Hukurut resisted the Korkine, he's probably pushing 60 in your estimation, and he is the person, as far as you know, who kind of runs the town and holds it together. And the stories you've heard are of a man who, when it came to battle with the Korkine, he was there fighting them. It was his idea to flood the whole area, and as a result of that, the flooding kind of like stirred up all the there's this grayish blue mud that is the trademark of this river, and so the whole area, and the clay used in various areas of construction, there's, in some places, there's like clay tiles on the roofs. There's this gray blue mud or clay that is commonly seen here, and there's tons of it's a very kind of murky, mossy, wetland kind of place. The water's not clear. There are choruses of frogs and tons of marsh birds and that kind of thing in the area. So, and you guys are approaching from the north. It's midsummer. How about, let's get them. There's a new move in Freebooters since last we played. It's called Check the Weather. Ooh. It's a pretty simple move, but anytime we want to know what the weather is, you just roll 2d6 and see what the conditions are like relative to the season and the climate. So, John Chad, would you roll 2d6?
Happily. Do you want the total or the individual dice?
Total regular move roll, yeah.
That's 9.
Okay. So cloudy, blue skies, sun. So partly cloudy day. I think in this area, there's like, you're not too far. You're sort of adjacent to the open grasslands to the west. So there's a breeze blowing in from that direction. And as you guys are, as Hukurut comes into view, you're sort of rolling grassland on either side of you, and the wind is like rippling through the grass. And you're looking down towards the shore of the lake, and at this end, there's a road that kind of goes all the way around the lake and connects to the roads that go elsewhere. And at various places around the shore, there's like huts or little. There must be, like, you assume there's like roadhouses, you smoke coming from some buildings, and all along the shore there's various watercraft parked here and there, and people plying the waters. You see people out there fishing. So it's a pretty active place. Yeah. Go ahead.
Our intentions with coming here was primarily fact-finding. We wanted to know how they did it. And so I'm going to assume that either we heard from people of Point Oinen, what you just told us, Jason, or the cursory people that we met on the outskirts filled in the gaps to that story.
Yeah, I think that you had heard stories. There were people who'd come to Rayuna who knew stuff. There's the kind of broad legendary story of Hukurut, and then the friends you made in Pojoinen, some of whom had lived in Hukurut, kind of filled you in on the details.
This is interesting. I say to the other two, it seems as if the Colkeen can be inconvenienced out of one's home. To think that the trouble that they've put us through, the boot that they've had on the neck of Ledevisi, if they had simply been inconvenienced by some sort of physical terrain or boundary, they might have just stopped.
Well, we inconvenienced them in a different way, didn't we?
We didn't strike a truce with the hand. Did we get the hand to say that he wasn't going to send anybody to Rayuna?
Yeah.
You got the hand to say that he was not going to send anybody to Rayuna. Like he's gonna report on what happened.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
But he doesn't have there's people with higher authority than him. He was the person assigned to your province, essentially, right? And he is pretty high up. He was pretty high up in the church. But the oath that you had him take was to never return. And I think included in that was like none of them were supposed to come, but he doesn't have control over all of the.
Sure. Yeah. The exact semantics.
I mean, that being said, you guys kicked his ass and sent him home with his tail between his legs, which is not what they would have expected, right?
Yeah. Perhaps a conversation with the head of this village would, it could potentially yield some valuable information to have insight from someone who has inconvenienced the Colkeen to the point of trucing with them.
So seek audience with Rupa.
That's
Timey suggestion.
I have no reason to think that we wouldn't be welcome here. But do either of you think that discretion is more of the route to take?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I think it might be interesting to learn about them and how they operate with the Corkine. But we should watch our backs because there's a bounty on our heads,
Mm.
and there might be people in this town that would want to collect. But I wonder what we could offer or ask from the folks in town here. If there's anything that would help us in our desire for the lands that we liberated to stay free.
Because of the proximity of Hukurut to Sakagara, they might have more experience dealing with, to use anachronistic terms, like the red tape of the Colkine. Whereas we just like beat up a guy and like send him on his way. Like they might know more about the formality or like the structure of the Colkine that we don't have insight into. At the very least, I mean, we are potentially the first, kind of ambassadors from this united, Western front. So if anything, we should just be putting our best foot forward and just, telling them what we're about and, extending friendship. We've got to have some sort of gift to give them.
Maybe some sort of suggestion that the iron trade that the Corkine seems so interested in, maybe they would be able to be sort of like iron merchants on our behalf, and this stuff that is collected in La Devisi could be equitably sold through Hukurut. I don't know if that's a good idea.
I mean, that's an interesting, there's an interesting play there where we basically use that as the carrot to kind of keep the Colkine out of our hair, where it's like, hey, listen, we know you want this. You want to get your hands on it. Like, you're going to go through Hukurut and you're going to do alone.
Like you can buy ore from us, but like come no further west. Like we'll do business with you in Hukurut, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Or just using the trade as it's like listen, we won't cut off trade with you. Like we will give you access to this thing you want. We will give you a fair price.
Wow.
We will treat you like any other village. It's just that you won't become wealthy on the backs of the Reunions. Reunions?
Whatever you want to call them.
Wise Muirin, you've traveled far. What is your take on the people that we've seen so far of Hukurut?
Oh, I do believe that they could be good allies for us and the rest of the recently freed Corkine towns. So I think what you and Paiviki suggest would be great. Would be great for us to try to present and see if they're open to working together.
So would the goal here be to meet with the leader of Hukurut, propose this this plan, and then also have him, like, do you want to meet with the Corkine directly to cut this deal?
Whoa.
Or do you want him to be the go-between who basically says like, who lays down the law and says like, you go no further west. I have, this person would say like, I've arranged for trade to flow through Hukurut, but you go no further west to them. So you guys could either do it directly or you could have him do it.
At the suggestion of those two routes, Taimi pauses and really thinks about, what she wants from this has changed, and a lot of that is the softening of her anger, and a lot of that is Paiviki, and that the Colkeen as a practice, and as an empire or wannabe empire, I don't know how far east they go, is certainly something that she abhors. But the Colkeen people themselves, her mind flashes to the group of merchants and like kind of common folk that were traveling with the hand that had to kind of go back, in shambles with a lot less protection.
Yeah.
And Taimi doesn't know if she wants to say you could go no further. I think she just wants these bozos to give them their word that I don't see why trade can't exist. And I think that surprises her. It surprises her that she softens.
Mm-hmm.
But what do you two think? I mean, I'm inclined to think that, like, not that basically everything in the second option, but not that they go no further west than Hukurut. They can still go. Just if they want access to this ore, they're going to get it through Hukurut.
Mm-hmm.
Other trade could resume as such.
What about limitations on? Well, we can sort that out later, actually. Yeah.
No, isn't there a statecraft move?
Politics. I mean,
Yeah, I think
negotiate.
I've got a +1 in statecraft. That's my next advanced move.
Multi-classes politician.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's called quorum. You have to have like two of your a quorum of the party members, and you get a +2 instead of a +1.
What do you think, Mirren?
I think option 2 is would be ideal because it makes it makes Hukurut more like invested in the alliance, and it's not just us deciding how trade or how the Korkeen shall move around. If Hukurut is open to being the trade port, it makes sense for them to be the face of it, I think.
Mm-hmm. So okay, so Mirren is voting to have the leadership of Hukurut be the middle person, the broker, right? So you guys would not deal directly with the Korkeen in Mirren's. Okay.
In Mirren's opinion, yeah.
Right.
I mean, yeah, Paiviki is super convincing and super great. So I would definitely want her voice in the room. But if they've done this before and they continue to work with them,
mm-hmm.
it seems wise. But
they might just be able to fold it into their existing
setup.
Yeah, I think bringing Hukurut into it as a partner in all this makes sense because they're used to dealing with the Korkeen. But from a dramatic standpoint, I do like the idea of coming at them and saying, we've liberated all of these Western towns, and this is what we propose. I also think that we have those like you were saying, we have those Korkeen people that are living in Rayuna now, and it's like
mm-hmm.
it's an example of how folks can make their way, but it has to be that the Korkeen give their word, that they don't try to to dominate these lands if they come to live there.
Would that be as simple as just saying no armed, no word keepers on these roads kind of thing, like keep the military out essentially, but civilians are free to come and go?
I think so. I mean, the other thing would be not enforcing their rule of, from the but the problem from the word givers, because the religion is so woven into their military.
Yeah.
So that none of those their words have to have to be personal and not statewide, I guess.
Right. All right, so it sounds like first order of business is make a connection with the with Rupa. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
And how would you guys like to go about that? What would be your move there?
I feel like that's your arena, Paiviki.
I mean, yeah, but I was gonna say we should have Mirren go in as a scout and climb in through the window and check out the place beforehand, like we usually do. I don't know.
So sneaky though.
Yeah, they've probably got all kinds of traps because it's Hukurut.
I mean,
But yeah,
Weirin can certainly scout and then quickly come back and tell Paiviki it's okay. Right.
Part of the issue is you don't want to all go together because of the bounty. Is that right? Like you want.
Well, it just we want to make sure we're not actually walking into Jabba the Hutt's palace and falling through the trapdoor. But beyond that, I think it's fine for us to go together.
Okay, so, but send Mirren as a scout.
Yeah,
I can look very unassuming and
she can
wandering.
snoop around and see if anybody's looking shifty or talking about us, or I don't know, what would we scout for? But
well, you can just find answers, and then you get to decide what you want to know. So Donna, how will Mirren? I mean, apparently there are these boats that you can just pay a coin and they'll take you to or from the town there across the water. So do you want to just pay a ferry person to get you over there?
Got it. Because the only way to the town is through the boat. Yes.
It's by water.
Yeah.
And do you do anything to disguise yourself?
Yeah, I'll keep my hood up and put away any noticeable weapons.
Yeah, what would you really be? You'd be known for, well, the three of you together would be known, right? Like the bounty is on these three people together. One of them is a sorcerer. One of them is an elf, and one of them is a deadly, terrifying hunter, right? That's the story that's out there, and the trademark things. They've been seen, wearing wordkeeper armor, for instance,
right,
or carrying crossbows, right? Those are key identifying features. Like crossbows only come from the Korkeen. Although who knows, in Hukurut maybe there's some for sale. So in your case, I don't think you have anything out of the ordinary, right? Like you can.
Mirren has, I don't know if they know about this, but she's got that shield.
Yeah.
That belongs to, she repainted it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
With a tree on it.
Yeah, so
I'll probably leave it behind.
Yeah, they would. I mean, that's like a borderline thing where somebody in the know would realize that was a Korkeen make, right? Like the metal and the shape. Not anybody makes shields like that, but it wouldn't be, so it's not like a dead giveaway, but there's a chance somebody would recognize that.
You could throw it under your cloak or something.
Yeah, can you wear it on your back under the cloak?
I mean, it'd be super noticeable. It's a pretty decent sized
Okay.
shield.
I feel
It
like I should
also-
just leave it.
Yeah, if you're gonna go stealthy, you should just travel light, maybe.
Yeah, so no bow and arrow either. I'll just have like my poisons and my small throwing knives
Okay, great. And you
and
and
a hatchet.
you get the impression that like you cross a pond with silver on the edge of the water, and people come and go from Hukurut of all kinds, and nobody's going to ask, in terms of you getting there, nobody's going to ask you questions or stop you. It's like you pay your money and you go, right? All you know for sure is that anybody who looks like a word keeper is not allowed. There's on the road that it's east, there's like an encampment where like trading happens between Hukurut and the Korkeen. The Korkeen don't actually ever come out to the settlement itself. Okay, great. So you're going to go in and find answers. Yeah, you can use wisdom to sense or discern, intelligence to recall or study, or charisma to ask around once you get in there.
I'd like to use wisdom to discern.
Okay, so yeah. And what time of day are you doing this?
Was it? Would like early morning make sense?
Sure, before too many people are up and about, kind of thing. Like,
Yeah, just so that I can scout it and then bring them back later in that day.
Taimi and Paviki, do you guys want to have your own sort of camp off the road, out of sight, or do you want to stay at one of these roadhouses that they have, or some other?
I guess I'd rather be closer. So it's like a boat. Once you get to Hukurut, you don't need boats to go from like one district to another.
Right, they're mostly all connected. If you want to do as you can see, there's like, can you see my pointer?
Yeah.
So if you were over here and you wanted to get over here, you have to go all the way through the whole town. But if you had a boat, you could just go across. But yes, everything is accessible on the on the walkways.
And you're saying one of the roadhouses in town, or are you saying a roadhouse on the other side?
I was picturing on the other side, on that outside of the lake, on the shore of the lake.
Okay. I guess off the road would be my instinct.
Like a cold camp, lay low kind of thing.
Yeah.
Is that cool with Paviki?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would probably just be like watching for a signal from Mirren if something goes wrong, and just kind of, be like one of the hang-arounders, kind of looking around at what our options are if we had to jump in a boat, or,
Yeah. Great. So you guys actually all spend the night in this camp, and then before dawn, Mirren's up and looking for a ride across, and that's no problem. So it's like, you find a it's actually somebody who's got a raft. Yes, John.
I know we're not trying to do smaller moves, but I would love to keep company with Paviki so I could refresh my bonds with her.
Oh, go for it. Yeah.
And I think I basically, again, just to kind of expedite things, I think I just give you the talk that I was saying earlier about how like knowing you has fundamentally changed my perception and feelings about the Korkeen. And I'm not, I still believe that what they do is wrong, but if one of my best friends, can be, then, we should be allowing villagers.
Right.
Yeah.
So is it just go ahead, Jan.
I didn't have much to say, but yeah.
Is that a flat roll?
How many bonds do you have with Paibiki?
Fulfilled or unfulfilled?
Either.
2.
Total. You get +2 to the roll. It's the
Even
number of, yeah.
Even if they're X'd out.
Yep.
Ooh, that's boxcars, baby. 14.
That's some solid friendship happening.
Wow.
So it says the exchange goes well, play it out or summarize and choose 2 from the list below, which is, I believe you wanted to refresh all bonds. Both of you get to refresh all bonds, actually, if you choose that one. And the other one is you gain a bond with them or they gain a bond with you.
I am going to choose to refresh all bonds.
And then you can gain an additional bond if you want.
Oh, in addition.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah. You get 2 things.
I've got 2 bonds with Taimi also.
Oh man.
It's top tier friendship.
Get the team back together.
All right. So what's Paiviki's positive response to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that Paibiki has like a new sort of feeling of, because she's always been like an outcast a little bit in Rayuna, having to stick up for herself and like fight all the other kids growing up because she was different. And she's kind of like, she's feeling the clouds lift and feeling like a new sense of like belonging, I guess would be the thing. Because she and Taimi, I think I always imagined that they were sort of rivals as like teenagers or whatever.
Growing up, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think of Taimi as a hardcore reunion, like born and raised in the motherwood, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, great. Okay, so Mirren sets off at the crack of dawn. There's like a cloaked figure at the lake's edge, close up on a silver coin being dropped into a grubby hand, and then the soft lapping of the water as the raft makes its way across. It's like all timber lashed with rope. Most of the structures over there. You get the sense that the whole place. There's places where the structure itself kind of bobs a little bit, right? It's all on stilts, but like there's places where the lake doesn't fluctuate that much, but there are occasional lapping waves, and there are areas where like the whole place kind of creaks, right? There's like a from place to place, and the docks themselves, each section of the dock it's a free floating thing kind of lashed to the next section. So you pull up to one of those and, light as a feather, Mirren steps off and quietly makes her way into town. And Donna, go ahead and roll wisdom.
Cool. I rolled a 4, so I'm adding +2, and then I'm gonna use a luck so that I get a 7.
And what is the question you're trying to answer?
Are there people in Hukurut who might want to pursue the bounty on the 3 of us?
Mm-hmm. Says that my answer is cryptic or incomplete, but I'll tell you how to learn more. So yeah, this early, so one way you think to figure that out is to like find like a watering hole, right? To find like a dive where people are maybe just like go make yourself inconspicuous and listen in, see what kind of conversations people are having. And you actually find a couple of different spots. The first spot you go into, it's like there's somebody kind of tending the counter area, and there's two people just like snoring asleep in a corner at a table. So this room in the morning, there's not a lot of activity. And the I think, would you reveal yourself to the bartender? Like, you got the cloak on, you're somewhat, you know, I think as far as like a human goes, you look like maybe a human teenager in terms of like your stature, right? So a young, or a
Yeah.
young person, I should say, like a younger human. Would you approach somebody and talk to them directly like the bartender, or is this more just about like observing quietly? This is just the first kind of tavern that you're stopping at. We're just curious about Aaron's approach here.
I think Weird would talk to someone without introducing herself, or
Okay.
Yeah.
So this guy at the first tavern's like doesn't really like, it's just kind of like very short answers, doesn't really, clearly does not want to converse with you. So you feel kind of cold shouldered by that, and then you move on and you keep moving through town. People are stirring and waking up. You see some, you know, candlelight in some windows, and you find another place that's kind of open onto the front of the business is open onto one of these big broad walkways. And there's a couple of patrons that just like run of the mill, like, you know, people here in general, they're not all like shabby looking, but there is a general air of letting things go. There's like ragged beards, and you know, some people have that blue-gray mud on their clothes. And this one bar that you the next bar that you find, there's nobody there at all, except sitting at the counter is somebody who's wearing, you just see the back of him. It's a big man sitting at the counter, and he's wearing studded leather armor. So he's got a you know, big bear of a guy, and he's got like a leather well, it's armor, which is, you know, it's a little unusual. I mean, yeah, this is rough and tumble town, but somebody's like armored up. And at his belt is an axe, like a hand axe is hanging at his belt. And he's hunched over, you assume, a drink in front of him. So you just see the back of him, and it just catches your eye because like he's a big guy, clearly some kind of fighter. The only one you've seen so far since you've come in, and you figure, and he also looks like he's not from here. So you figure this person, if there's a bounty and this person is a fighter type, maybe he would know something about that. But to know more, you're going to have to talk to him.
And he is not talking to anybody right now, right?
Right now, he's like, there's not even like a bartender
Yeah.
here. Like, for some reason, there's nobody tending the thing. It's just this one person alone in this room.
Right.
Oh, I will say that he has kind of dirty blonde hair, which marks him. You're guessing, and this is just looking at the back of him from his build, and that you're thinking that he's Corky.
Oh, okay. And then if I like do a sense danger, would it give me anything specific, or is he just not even noticing me?
He does not. He's completely unaware of your existence at the moment. And sense danger. When you consider a situation, however briefly, you may spend one cunning to force the judge to tell you if any threat is imminent and from whence it will come. I mean, You
Right.
could do that now if you wanted to spend a cunning and see if there's any imminent danger, which might
Right,
include him.
right. What if I like make noise so that he notices me sit down, and
Okay.
then I'll do the sense danger thing.
Okay, sure. So you like pull out a chair. You pull out like a
Yeah,
rickety chair.
yeah, to
Um,
make sure. Yeah, okay, and then I'll spend a cunning.
When you sit down, a water snake slides out from under the table and goes through a hole in the floor. Just goes, and you hear a plop as it hits the lake down below. Nothing. Just like local fauna. That's all. Nothing to worry about.
That's cool. I was
yeah,
trying to decide if that was a bar thing or if there was actually a snake. Okay,
it's actually a snake. Actually, just a wild
Cool.
snake. So you pull the chair out and sit down, and he kind of like looks over his shoulder. You know, he kind of glances your way, and then turns back. And then there's a pause, and then he turns again and looks a little more focused in your direction. So you want to spend your cunning?
yeah, I'll send it to sense danger.
So I have to tell you if a threat is imminent and from whence it will come. I would say that that he's definitely a threat. He's not like about to come at you or anything, but you definitely get the sense that he is a threat to your person.
It's bad.
You're a little small for a huku.
Muirin will reply. She's gonna say that her family is just on the smaller side and it's never been an issue for this town. And then I'll say, I'll just ask if there's a problem for him.
Like you mean like, do you have a problem, like that kind of thing, or
Yeah, just say, does my size bother you, or
what's your goal, and what are you trying to get him to do, or what are you trying to accomplish?
To make him not be I guess to try to disarm him if he is trying to yeah.
Okay,
Paint
got
me
it.
as a target, yeah.
Yep. So so I would say because you're trying to disarm him, I'd say when you want something from someone that they don't want to give up is the negotiate trigger, and it sounds like you want him to give up his like aggressive stance.
Yeah.
Is that fair to say? Great. So intelligence to appeal to his sense of reason, or charisma to charm or deceive him.
I'll do charisma.
Okay.
They're both +0, but I'll do charisma. Ooh, yay, 10.
He gives you like a long look, and then and turns back to his drink. And then the barkeep, a woman with black hair up in a bun, comes out, wiping her hands on her apron, and kind of squints at you, What's your next move?
I guess I'll just ask her quietly if she knows who that guy is. And
Oh, so like, she comes over to take your order essentially.
and then
you wanna,
yeah. Just want to know more of the same, like, are there dangerous people in Hukurut? Should I be nervous? If maybe she's noticed people coming in that are,
it's a dangerous place. You're not from here. It can be a dangerous place. Cross the wrong person. And then she glances in his direction. He's been here a couple days. Came from the east.
Mm-hmm. And then I'll just ask her, as a free town, that means they welcome any person who wishes to come through.
As long as you're not a word keeper, a member of that Church of Ani, everyone's welcome here. Your coin is as good as any.
Would she say how long she's lived in this town? Has she been here since it was flooded and freed?
Yes, she has. And she was probably just a kid when that happened. You're guessing from looking at her. She's maybe like 30.
Okay. Wow. I'll ask about.
So we'll say this is under the
the
pretense.
chief?
She's like going and like she gets you a drink, and we'll say that you're like ordering some food to make this all look like unobtrusive
Yeah.
conversation. So she brings you like some fish stew. Go ahead.
Cool. Yeah. No, that's perfect. I'll just ask how the chief, does she know the chief, and how does he impose orders? Does he have deputies? Does someone have to go to him if there's a problem?
If there's a big problem, yeah, Rupa's the one you see. But if there's real trouble, he's got a right hand. Her name is Eva Valkonia. She's killed a dozen Korkin in her time. When she shows up, people get straight. And then there's others working under them, but she's his sword arm.
Can you tell me where they are stationed?
Like where their base of operations are? Sure, it's the perch there. Up to the next level. What you want with Rupa? So the place you're in, this place here.
Yeah.
And this place here is what she's talking about.
Oh, the perch up there.
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah, I guess I'll just say that I want to know if he wants to make any new friends.
You're asking her this?
Yeah, if he's open to meeting new people.
I mean, he's a busy man.
Yeah.
He's interested in it. At this point, he just gets a cut of all the trading that happens. But if it's a big enough deal, he might take an interest. Last time it happened was a shipment of wine from Sakagara. He took an interest in that, and now he sits on it and dispenses it as he sees fit. I've only got 2 bottles of it, but it goes for a good price.
Cool. I guess I'll just thank her.
Do you want to just report back to your friends, or is there something else that you wanted to?
Is this the only gathering, drinking area in the town?
There's like 3 or 4 different places. This is the one that you're going to get the most information out of.
Okay, cool.
Like the role for financiers, like this is the best for that mixed result. This is your best situation. And the thing
Okay,
was,
great.
yeah. And so you have found out more by talking to her. But is there more you wanted to know? Like you wanted to know about the bounty? Or maybe you don't want to draw attention to that idea while you're.
Yeah, I do think I know that it's going to be dangerous and that it makes sense to, yeah, I'll report back
Okay.
and then tell them who's in town and that we should watch our backs, basically.
Okay. So we're back at the campsite and it's like before noon. All morning there was like a low mist over the lake, and that's sort of starting to evaporate, and the sun's starting to cut through the mist. So what's the next move?
Well, at least we know one face to look out for.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like this group it might be straightforward to convince him of our intentions, especially if we can work him in a business way.
Yeah. Until we cut a deal and make some sort of, maybe we can put into our negotiations with the Corkeen that we need to have the bounty lifted on our heads. But
did Ralph say what that bounty was in Poihoinen?
I mean, he must have, but I don't think I actually.
Yeah, he just said, I just happened in my notes in a grand way. He was just like, "Oh, the bounty on your heads is great. I'll take you guys back to Sakagara."
Yeah.
Yeah. I think in that in the interim you learned that it is 100. It's 150 silver for Paiviki. And it's 100 for each of Taimi and Weirin.
Oh yes, let's go. I just think that that's good information to have. Yeah, that's just good information to have. But we should probably try to find this Rupa guy, and I think that we will have more success if we shed the more conspicuous pieces of equipment that we have.
Yeah.
cache them here.
Paiviki is very conspicuous because she's got this scar going across her face too.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
She's kind of unmistakable that way. And she's tall. But
Yeah, I mean, we can't full disguise ourselves. It's just,
yeah, I mean, I think that in some ways the best bet that we have is just to walk into town and deal with whatever comes across us. You know, I mean, we
That's
could
certainly,
take
I was gonna say that's certainly a way to get an audience, right? If you are those people, those well-known, those renowned brigands.
yeah. I mean, we could take a boat up to the back side of town and go directly to the place that that we know to go,
Mm-hmm.
so that we don't have to like wander through town and get seen. But
sure.
So is that the move? Beeline to the perch?
Yeah. I actually don't have my I don't have armor right now. I don't have my armor and I don't have my crossbow, so I don't know what I'm worried about. I'm just a normal pleb.
yeah, Paiviki took her armor off too. And I think she's fine. I mean, she'd probably take her sword, but you know, with her cloak on and everything.
Okay. So hire a boat, take you straight in, as close to the perch as possible, and then go up and like throw back your hoods and say we're here.
Yeah.
Is that the situation? Okay.
I think so.
All right. Yeah, so that's probably a little after midday that you you do that. Not a problem to hire a boat to go out there. You come there's, as you can see, there's the water kind of goes, there's a channel kind of through the middle of the town there, and there is a dock and ladders and stuff to get up there. So you pay your pilot and ascend onto the walkways near the perch, and you come around the front. There's actually a guard standing right. So there are these two longhouses and then a tower kind of behind them, and there's a space between the two longhouses, and there's a guard standing at the kind of entrance to that space. So you guys walk up the walkway. How do you approach that? So you've got your cloaks on, and the three of you are walking towards this guard. So I'm assuming Paiviki's in the lead. How do you approach? How do you make contact?
I think that we would just walk up. I imagine the guard is like guarding.
Yeah, he's just standing there. I mean, he's definitely the three people walking up the thing towards the, he definitely is looking at you.
Yeah.
And he kind of straightens up a little bit.
Paiviki, I think, would just say, "Greetings. We've come to speak with Rupa. Is he awake?"
Are you saying this with your hood still on, or do you drop your hood at this point?
Yeah, drop the hood.
So he his brow furrows, and then he gets a kind of surprised look on his face, and he looks around for help, and then says, let me wait here. And then he disappears. And so the space between those two longhouses is like a little courtyard, essentially. There's even a few little potted trees there. And the sort of front door of the tower is at the end of that little courtyard. And I guess the unusual thing about it is that it's actually like there's stones. There's like flagstones. Everything else here is wooden, but there's like somebody's taken the time to like lay down fitted stones to create a little stone courtyard there. There's another guard at the door, and they kind of confer, and then that guard disappears, and then returns shortly later, and then they confer again, and then the guard kind of gestures for you to come across the courtyard. And the person in the doorway, you suppose, must be this Eva Valkoinaya, who Muirin learned about. She's big, looks very like Taimi sizes her up immediately as like someone who can move, like a very like completely like this impression of kind of coiled strength. Like she's about 6 feet tall. She's got short dark hair, and the whole left side of her face is do you remember there was that, do you remember up in La Devisi, the woman who ran that place had that kind of rash on her skin, that kind of mottled red. It's this illness that strikes some people in the area. So the whole left side of her face, almost right down the middle, is like, and neck is like this kind of like dark red color. Whether it's a skin condition or something, you know, there's different like folk ideas about what this is, but anyway, that's a remarkable thing about her appearance. And she kind of like sizes you up, the three of you, and says, weapons. Hand them over. And she gestures to the guard, the guard who you first encountered.
Taimi purses her lips and then gives a short, curt nod and hands over her longbow and her short sword.
Okay.
Paiviki will hand over her knife and her jeweled short sword.
Ooh, her fancy short sword. Eva's eyes kind of like, you know, the cloak comes back and you unbuckle the short sword and go to hand it over, and Eva's eyes track this this notable object as you hand it to the she says, no, that one, give that one to me. That one needs to be kept safe.
Oh, you bet it does.
And then the guard like hands it over to her. And then what does Muirin turn over?
Just her hatchet.
Okay.
And she didn't bring her longbow.
Does she have a knife or anything?
She has a throwing knife.
Well, I guess the question is anybody trying to hide any weapons on their body?
No.
Are you turning over everything, or are you trying to hide something?
I want to keep my one throwing knife
Okay.
because it's like not visible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Eva's a you know, a veteran fighter, so she might be able to read your body language to see if you're carrying anything hidden there.
Oh, really?
So you're gonna have to make a roll to see if you can get by her without her noticing. Yeah.
A roll? I don't want to roll.
So you're gonna hand, maybe there's a moment where everybody hands over their stuff, and then she kind of like looks at you pointedly, and you have to like reach back and
Give
pull
her
out
that also.
that last throwing knife and hand that over. Okay. So then we cut to the top floor of the tower. There is a big like fire bowl, like an iron fire bowl up there. So you go up some rickety stairs that go up the 3 floors to the tower, and you're admitted to. There's just one room on the top there, with windows out all sides, so you can look out across the lake in all directions. And Rupa is sitting there in a chair. He's got there's various paraphernalia around that you would associate with somebody who's in charge of all the trade in the area. There's like a rack of scrolls. There's he's got like a writing desk. In fact, there's a scribe at the writing desk. So there's that extra person in the room. And the striking thing about Rupa is that he has so he's got like a mane of black hair turning gray, so like streaked with gray, big bushy beard and mustache, broad face, tanned and weathered. He's wearing like black and gray striped tunic. He's got an amulet around his neck, and his nose is made of silver.
Gold.
So it's like and it's a pretty, it's not like super finely crafted. It's not like a super realistic looking nose. It's like it's a little, it's a little chunky in terms of the way it's been sculpted. But it is attached to his face there. And there are two straps going around over his ears so to hold it onto his face.
Wow.
And his eyes are kind of gray. And so he watches you enter the room. Eva sort of steps back into the doorway. So it's the three of you facing him. I was wondering if we would ever meet.
Yes, we've been wanting to come to Hukurut for a long time now, but we've been busy, you see.
So I hear. Quite busy. In fact, I just heard the other day about something that happened up north at Poyoinen. Am I to understand that this was your business as well?
Word travels fast.
I have snakes everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
I must congratulate you on the business with the hand. It gave me great joy to see him limp back to the capital. We drank at his passing along the shore of the lake. And I have you to thank for this.
Then we are aligned in how we feel about the force to the east.
Perhaps, how is it that you feel? I know that you repelled a speaker of the church. I don't know much more than that, unless the stories of Ladevisi are true, in which case you are rebels.
Who wants to take point on this?
Go for it, John. If you have something, go.
Okay, I'll go for it. Rebels implies some sort of that implies something moralistic. I feel we simply freed what was ours and what was being taken from us continually. Our freedom our safety. The Colkeen have brought nothing but rule to our lands. They claim to grant protection and amenities that don't exist. And so we exorcised them from our soil. And the grass has never been greener, nor the fruit trees riper. But we know that things change. And we're interested in making the situation more permanent. Initially, we came to ask you, Rupa, how you and Hukurut had managed to do this all these years, to be the free town of Hukurut, to be free of, to be out of the gaze of the Colkeen. And we would seek to enter a partnership with you in order to make our lands to the west free as well.
Partnership. First, let me say that the story did not prepare me for the hunter being the talkative one. You are Timi?
Taimi.
Taimi. Ah, yes, a good Reunan name.
My travels have taught me patience, and I'm not the barking hunting dog I once was.
Ibiki says, Taimi is wiser than the stories might say. She sees more than most people and understands what most people hide from their hearts. But we come with a proposal. We seek to have the freedom that Hukurut has, but also we would offer that Hukurut is the line, so all of our trade from the liberated towns can come through Hukurut, and the Colkeen stay on their side. So for this, we would ask your help and an offer that you may become wealthy through the important role that you play in the trade between the Colkeen in the West, and may we have a new peace between us, and we want the bounty lifted as well.
And we don't ask for these favors and these friendships lightly, and which is why we would want to involve you as a trade partner. A great wealth of iron ore has been discovered under Reuna, and we know that the Colkeen hunger for it. It was their reason for attempting to control our lands. While we have nothing but disdain for the military and religious class of the Colkeen, we don't outright condemn them as a people, and have found their laborer and have found numerous moments of cooperation and successful relationships with their merchant and laborer class.
Hmm. So that is what is different now than before. Before Rayunans would trade. What is that? What is that drink that comes from the west?
Red cap.
Yes, the red cap, of course. We are used to seeing that here at market. And I myself have taken pleasure in certain crafts that come from your quarter. And he turns sideways. His feet are being concealed by there's like a table in front of him. He turns sideways and you see that he's wearing a pair of beautiful black boots with silver buckles crafted by Costi.
That's
Oh, nice.
notable footwear.
That was one of the random things I rolled for him.
No way.
Yeah. And it could only come from one person. I see. So this is what has changed. Iron in the hills. The work crew that you repelled, only a portion of their number returned to the capital. I understand that some of them live in Reuna now.
Yeah.
To work these veins.
We work hand in hand. They share our knowledge with them, and we've opened up our town's arms, and they enjoy the shade of the great tree as well.
And the leadership of these other villages you speak of, Ladevisi, Poyoinen, are there others besides these?
I don't think we claim, quick aside, I don't think we claim to speak for Poyoinen.
So it's just Ladevisi and Rayona, is that what you're talking about?
I mean, yeah, we have a friendship with Saltfallen, but I don't even know if we would claim to speak for them.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
So
I think that we would say that there are others who we have helped.
Yeah.
And it's up to them to make their own terms, but we would invite them willingly into the alliance.
This kind of trade.
So the trade would flow through Hukurut.
We value experience and connections. We see it as a mutually beneficial arrangement. The Colkeen get their iron ore. The Reuna and Ladevisi are paid fairly and justly for the labor that they do, and Hukurut benefits as a successful port of trade.
Do you not see what will come after? The Colkeen hunger for iron to forge into steel for their weapons and armor. If 2, now 3 settlements to the west have resisted them and pushed them back, word will surely spread to other places, to Sakagara and beyond. The Colkeen's rule has been tested and broken in these places, then others will take heart in that. And perhaps they too will rise up. Is that a future that you want? I grow old and it will not be mine to see.
The short answer is yes. I wish to see a future where any town or encampment that feels their neck under the boot of the Colkeen can get out from under it.
So there's a long pause and he kind of like stares at you.
Yeah, and it takes a while for her to say it, but I don't wish them gone from the earth. Their hunger and their greed has poisoned them. The villages of this land prospered without their involvement.
Indeed, this land was once dry. My family was once living.
Well,
very well. The hunter speaks the truth. Eva, get the red cap. And they break out the good stuff and sort of surveying, looking out the window, from here you can see east and west. It's poured out into little wooden cups. And the deal is struck with the toast.
Wow.
And in the Reunion style, there's a fifth cup poured for the dead. Sorry, in the Hukurut tradition, there's a fifth cup poured for the dead of Hukurut, and that's poured out the window into the water. How soon until the ore flows?
Do we have a confident answer for that?
Yeah, I mean, you can estimate. You don't have to. Yeah.
Okay.
He's just rhetorical question. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, if it's true that, like, I mean, thank goodness we have the people from Sakagara there of the Colquhoun, because we wouldn't have the experience otherwise. And what if I said, like, 2 years, and he's like, well, a deal's off.
right. No, there's no wrong answer. He's just making conversation.
Put myself on the line here. We say like a month. It's like when we left, work was already underway, and the people of Reuna and Ledevisi are strong and inspired. I have no doubt that before the snows fall, that we will be yielding fruit.
And I think that Ledevisi already had iron already in the works before that. Talked about it in Reunion.
Was iron up there?
Yeah.
Yeah, they had a little. That's one of the reasons the Colquhoun were there. Yeah.
Was it iron or tin?
It might have been tin. Yeah, it was. Yeah, you guys have the iron, and they had some other metal.
They had something valuable too.
Yeah.
This is great. I mean, ultimately, his last question, lingers at the front of Taimi's head, and it's something that she always thought about. Like, well, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? This, this is to hopefully make things more permanent, but in some ways the Colquhoun are unknowable. We've never seen their lands, we've never seen their armies, their fortresses. It's it's scary. But she feels a little less scared.
If this works, there'll be at least some short-term stability, right? Like, even who knows what will happen in the long run, but like,
yeah. I think I also just want to like put a highlight on a moment where, like, I think brokering this deal, Taimi was nervous to say one word, let alone a couple paragraphs. And I think from her perspective, we get a couple shots of like her looking at like folios of paper, a scribe, a writing desk. And while she was very honored by what Paiviki said, she feels so immensely out of place in this kind of situation, and that sticks with her.
Remember when she was attacked by books?
Exactly. PTSD. There's books all around me.
Yeah.
He says, Miko, 3 discs. And the scribe takes down from a shelf 3, they look like discs sliced from the horn of an animal. So they're thin enough to be almost translucent when you hold the light. And he takes there's a metal, there's a brand that's been sitting in the brazier, the fire bowl this whole time. And he takes it out and burns the insignia on the brand into these 3 discs and hands them to you. These are the marks of Rupa Raidukalpa. They will grant you passage to and from Hukurut. When you send the first trade delegation, send one of these discs with them.
This is when will you be contacting the Colkeen? How will you? Because that was part of the, like this deal that we talked about, that he would be this intermediary. Like, what will that look like?
I will meet they send a monthly delegation to the Eastern Shore, and he gestures down towards that encampment I mentioned earlier. Mm-hmm. Whenever there is extra business, one of them visits me here at the perch, and at our next meeting, I will present this not as a proposal, but as what will happen next. It gives my heart strength to see our people do as you have done. I did not believe the stories at first. I did not believe that you had somehow tamed Varpu, the murderer. But if half of what has been said about you is true, I deem even this possible.
Well, the least we owe you is the tale.
That's a CGPO.
Yeah, slow panning camera. Shots of us gesticulating wildly, making sword motions. I'm a river monster. It's
great. And then I think we cut to the boat trip back across the lake, unless anybody else had anything to say to Rupa. Is that good to move on?
Yeah.
Boat trip across the lake, recovery of your gear, and then setting off home to Rayuna. Which I have to locate.
And just to clarify, they did remove the bounty, or they were going to remove the bounty?
Yes, that's part of it. Well, he's going to say that's part of the deal.
Bring that up at the next business time.
Let's see how that goes. All right, there's a brief montage over the misty moors as you guys travel back across the road past the place you camp at the site of the Battle of the Hand, right? Remember that rainy night? Yep. You reach that spot and there's still some markers here and there of the fact that the battle happened there. There's probably some graves actually, for the locals anyway, who perished. And then like that nighttime, and then before noon the next day you come in back to Rayuna from the east. 3 of you, dusty from travel, and I think there's some dogs come run out barking at the road, and then some kid at that first farm before the bridge, who's like, let's see, this time of year, he's out there actually in the fields, like working. There's like a teenager who stops what he's doing, sees the 3 of you coming, comes out on the road, he's still like 50 yards ahead of you, and then shouts and like turns and like runs across the bridge into town. And by the time you reach the bridge, people from the market have come out and have gathered there and are kind of like, there's a little bit of a crowd forming as people are curious about, is what this kid says true? I think you left to go into Watcher's Climb. It was like 10 days previous.
I mean, we spent a while. I think it's more like, because we at least spent a week in Poyoin, according to.
Okay, so like 2 weeks, let's say.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you had the big welcome back when you came back from the south, but people are still excited to see you because you're coming back from a different direction than you left by, which is kind of an unusual thing to have happen. So in short order, the rest of the village is alerted, and familiar faces are seen in the crowd. I think there's a moment where children are running up to Muirin. Yarko in fine fettle is there, being quite jolly and happy. And Tinny Treekeeper. And there's a moment where Annika lays eyes on Taimi. And I don't know, what's that reunion like? Is that like, what's the status of your guys' situation?
I run and give her a big embrace. I just give her a big embrace.
And let's see, who is Paiviki most like? Is there somebody that Paiviki's looking forward to seeing, or who is it? Who does Paiviki see that like makes her feel good or bad, or just a strong feeling? Who does Paiviki see that gives her a strong feeling?
I think that I've always thought of Teeny as being sort of like not exactly a mother figure, but in a way, like somebody who's like I always imagined her like teaching her how to read and kind of sharing her the sort of wisdom of things with her, and being kind of like a mentor, I guess. So I think after like the conversation with Taimi, like feeling like she's sort of like an elder, I suppose, in the town. Like she's if that's a profession, like coming up in becoming the person that she never really thought that she actually would succeed at. Because when she started this journey, she was, she had like the traits of being like selfish and that kind of stuff, and she was still in sort of like, she was chaotic and in that sort of punk ass mode of like looking out for herself, and then she's sort of slowly changed into like looking after other people. So she kind of has like, she feels like a satisfaction, I think, of being able to show Teeny that she's grown up, instead of being like the kid who's always like coming to her being like, they beat me up.
Yeah, and like
I
trying to
don't want to
prove
get him
things,
back.
and yeah, and boasting about things, right? Like
Yeah.
there's a lot. Yeah, you've seen a lot. You've lived through a lot. Great. What about Muirin, what about, maybe it's not a person, but what is it about coming back to Reuna? Like what strong feelings do you have about coming back to Reuna?
Where's probably closest attachments are the Paiviki, Taimi, and I guess Topias. But so she's just glad that as the group we're all back home, and feeling like we did something to make this town like safer, and hopefully creating like a future for the village, which seemed so enormous, like at the beginning. Yeah, so her strong feeling is that she came back with the group and was yeah, part of something good.
Like the whole, everything you guys have accomplished and the ways in which you've helped out, helped the people be safe. I love this idea of also you feeling most connected to just those people you know intimately, maybe not to a whole lot of other people in the village, and they may feel weird about you too because you're different, so different from them, but like that you have your close group, and then there's the kind of state of the village at large, which also includes these folks have made it back, right? Topias brought these folks back successfully from Watcher's Climb. They're all cleaned up now. but they're happy to see you.
Oh, I'm relieved that they're still around. I asked Annika if she got my message.
Oh yes, remind us of what the message was.
Notes. The question is, what? Let me talk about something else. There it is. I sent her a piece of the lichen. Remember when we were on like the lichen monster?
Yeah.
This lichen comes from a great and wondrous beast that dwells on the slopes of the Watcher. I send it along with my thoughts and well wishes. Do not regret your decision to stay, for I will return someday and look forward to telling you the tales of our adventures. When I look back on Reuna from the slope of the mountain and see the morning light cast across it, I think of your bright smile.
Oh, yes, she got the message. It was successfully delivered, and I think that it's that bright smile, like that moment before you guys embrace, is like, you know, with that, it's the shining smile through the crowd. And there's that. And does Taimi have any, aside from, you know, beloved Annika, does Taimi have any strong feelings about coming back home?
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. She is emotionally exhausted from all this traveling, and she really is really happy to be home. Is happy to be home and happy to see that things have not turned sour. You know, that everything's still standing, and you know that that little spark of hope that she had after the talk with Rupa is now like a small ember, like a small ember. And you know, it still needs to be fanned, it still needs to be fed, but it's even brighter than it was a day ago.
And I think one thing that fans it further is like this, you know, it's all there's stories being told, and you know, people are breaking out the red cap, and there's just a crowd gathered around, and people are holding forth in different ways, and everybody wants to know more. And then there's like a holler, and you see Varpu and two of her old crew come down from the hill, and they've got baskets woven from reeds full of iron ore that they've chinked out of the backside of the hill there, as a clear marker on this new journey that you guys have set up. All right. Are there any other moments in the village in the midst of the party time that you guys want to hit on before we learn about what happens to you next?
I think that there's just, it's the same sort of like us talking, like the shots of us describing what happened, and in song and dance, and I mean, because so far back as like you see Taimi like telling the story of Vihainen to some kids.
Oh my god, yeah. This is the part where I break out. So anybody that's watching, I was given these amazing gifts as GM of this campaign, and the story of Vihainen was turned into, I have to stop share here, was turned into an actual artifact, an actual story. The folktale of how the child pushed Vihainen over the cliff has been made real by John. So you tell that you're telling the kids you actually ran into Vihainen.
Yeah, I'm telling them a story, and like, oh, and then like, what do you do when you fight Vihainen? You toss him off the cliff, you trick him. It's like, that's what we did. We got him on the bridge. We tricked him. Yeah, talking about that, and I think that we're all. This is a big win. This is a big win for Auna.
Yeah.
That's where the in some ways that the story just goes beyond like something you could imagine from the history of the Roman Empire or something like that, or some other kind of written account. It's just like we met the god of chaos and evil and threw him off the bridge. And then the River King and the goat people that live on the crack to the icy world that we never ventured into but know that it exists now. Just kind of like the sort of the level of mystery that it's fun and hard to even imagine what it would be like living in that town, knowing that these things are out there. Yeah, it's just wild. I think that getting together with the old gang like Topias and Kosti and
Yarko and Esais and
yeah.
Oh yeah.
And just seeing how Yarko's arm is doing, and telling Kosti he's got like a bunch of new customers, he should start working if he wants,
Good old Yarko.
Donna, is there any other moments in town during this period that come to you, or
I think Mirren just makes it a point to say thanks to Topias for all he's done for the group and always being trustworthy. And yeah, just noting how much he became a hero in this whole adventure.
Yeah, I love that after like the initial swell of all the activity, right? There's maybe like there's like a little bit of a and people are maybe breaking off into different groups and whatnot. There's like maybe people can't hear what you're saying, but you're conferring with Topias, and he's looking kind of like he's somewhere caught between feeling like proud and strong and totally bashful that you're saying such kind things about him.
Yeah, I think we would probably, in front of everybody else, like tell all the stories of Topias and Annika and like all the like crazy stuff that they did, and creatures they fought and all that nutso bongo. I mean, we need a bard. We really need a bard. Be listening to all this and recording it.
The playbook now exists.
Oh.
Next campaign, you can be a bard.
That's right.
Oh, and I have to also for our viewers, Jan made an amazing book called The Adventures of Topias, which is Topias's account of the adventure. It's all from his perspective. This is him falling off the cliff near the River King's home. It's this incredible book telling the story from Topias's perspective.
So good.
Yeah, amazing. I think so. The party goes, long into the night. Bonfires burning. People are dancing around the old tree, and then so there's like a different shots of that. People just joyful, happy, smiling. You think about the changes that Varpu went through, and now Varpu's a part of this town, right? Varpu, who was like off in the wild, being her own person with her people that were like under her, like she was their boss, and now she's like one among them with everybody else in the village. There's the survivors of La Devacy, some of whom are present for one reason or another. There's the people who came out to, as part of the Hands entourage, who are now here as well. So definitely the community has changed in pretty profound ways, and is on the one step away from even bigger changes. And then I think there's a long shot of the village. Switch my at night, you see all the fires going and light in the windows. You hear the distant sound of the music and the singing, and somebody's got a cricket. Is that you, Jan? Is there a cricket in your window? I can hear a cricket.
There are many crickets.
Yeah. So I think that we're far enough back where we can hear the sounds of the village and the boisterous partying, but our point of view is back, at a distance, a little more in the wild, so we can hear the crickets at night. And in the far distance beyond Rayuna, we see the very vague silhouette of Watcher's Climb, and then just a vast black night full of a million stars.
I think that Paiviki would take the conch shell from Saltwall and using some kind of magical something or other, try to blow on the conch shell so that she can send a message to Locke to let her know.
Oh my God.
Send it across the air.
Yeah.
Through the wind so that maybe not immediately, but it would get to her and she would know what's happened.
Yeah,
That's rad.
you absolutely can do that. So that call echoes out into the night. And then we're gonna have some epilogues for our crew. Just trying to find your portraits again. All right, who wants to go first? All right, if nobody's going to volunteer, then I'm going to say the order is going to be. Oh man, it's going to be okay. It's going to be Paiviki, and then Mirren, and then Taimi. All right, that's going to be the order. And you can just do like a brief summary, and then leave us with just one idea or image or thought about your character.
So it's kind of just storytelling, like telling what they get into.
Yeah. As much or as
Yeah.
little as you want. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or you can totally leave it there. That call into the night with the conch could be perfectly fine. Like I don't want you to feel like you need to come up with something.
Yeah. No, I mean I love kind of imagining what might come to pass, but at the same time, there's that element of randomness that comes into the game where it's like whatever you thought, it's not that. And I love that part of it.
Well, you could say something that Paiviki might want to do in the big picture, and you could roll some dice to see if.
Yeah.
And then narrate the outcome if you choose, if you wish to.
That's true. I mean, I think that a lot of things that come to mind are like, she's had this writing kit and she's never really used it. I've always thought about it, but I think she would actually write down and write a book and talk about like all the adventures, because she loves reading so much, but I never talked about her actually recording stuff, which I kind of regret. And that she would, kind of add to the, all those crazy books, like I can't remember the names of them now, but like she'd be writing some of those so that people could read about it. And I think that Paiviki has just a lot of questions about the world outside of the one that they know. And she would actually want to venture back into the Motherwood and try to, get a deeper understanding of what that presence is in the wood, and maybe try to connect with it. She she feels tied to that spirit in the land, but doesn't really understand it very well. And having met or encountered somewhat the River King and the Vahainen and those spirits are the kind of goat people that live on the edge of the world of ice or wherever they come from. Just I think she would just want to become more deeply rooted in the place that she grew up and understand it better. So I think she would actually do the thing that we had sort of talked about of like at first just disappearing, and then perhaps like making if the Motherwood invites her to, like making a home in the woods and kind of having one foot in Rayuna and another foot in some other world, because I think learning what she's learned from understanding magic, she is she is pretty different than other people.
Yeah.
In her understanding of things, and I think she wants to study and take the time to actually learn about things, so she doesn't end up doing dumb shit like she usually does and calling on magic and causing terrible things to happen. So she wants to kind of grow in her wisdom, I guess.
Yeah,
she's
yeah,
so
yeah.
smart, she's not very wise, and I could imagine her becoming like this sort of strange wise old lady who lives in the woods that people are like, she's not real.
Yeah, right. All those stories about Paiviki, they're just like, yeah.
She doesn't really live in the woods, does she? Nobody lives there. And then combined with that, like definitely making more journeys down to Saltwall and consulting with Locke and helping to understand the world outside of the world that everybody knows.
I think that after the call on the horn, a few days later, you're visited by an old friend, the little bird, this kind of bird that only lives there down there on the coast. And then for the years after that, you and Locke can communicate by way of this little bird, so that when you do make a trip, the first of your trips down there, Locke knows that you're coming.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's amazing. How do wizards know things that people don't know? They must have ways to do that.
So at that, are you picturing, is this like far enough, like do enough years go by in the Motherwood where Paviki's like gray haired, and like, is that where she grows old?
Oh, I would think so. I mean, I think she's still, I think, she would disappear for times and go on other adventures. I think I couldn't imagine her not going on. I mean, I'll whatever you guys imagine with Taimi and Mirren, but I couldn't imagine her not going on more adventures and finding out a lot more about the world. But but I think this, it started in Rayuna, and I imagine it's still like the story kind of centering there. So that the further adventures would be somehow tied in. We'd learn more about the Motherwood and what it is and how it connects to the rest of the great spirits of the continent, all those strange creatures and what it's all about. I think that would be an interesting story to learn.
Yeah, there's a lifetime of exploration there, exploring all that.
Yeah.
Is there yeah, go ahead.
I think her real challenge is to learn how to be wise, because she's too smart and powerful for her own good.
It turns out
for anyone's good. She could easily slip into the the sorcerer queen persona.
Yeah, right.
She doesn't want to go there.
I think that's one of the ways that Locke and Tinny are probably both very helpful, right? As her kind of guides or mentors to like help her deal with that. And I'm sure that over the years there are occasional mistakes where the power gets out of control or whatever. But
yeah, constant rechecking. I thought I made progress.
And is there a final image of Taimi that you'd like to leave us with? I mean, Paiviki, sorry.
Yeah. I mean, of course, depending on how the dice go, but I do imagine like some kids in Rayuna being like, she's not real. And then like, some people like still like sort of braving the motherwood and like trying to find the how we would have like the test to see if the motherwort finds you worthy.
Yeah.
And there'd be like some like old person with an injury or something like that who remembers the meeting Paiviki or something like that when they were younger, and like going off into the woods to like try to get healed.
Mm-hmm.
And have their leg work again or something like that.
Everybody knows the story of Yarko.
Right.
How that went. All right, great. Is there anything else you wanted to add there, or is that?
No, but I'll probably think of something.
yeah. Feel free. Donna, what do you want to tell us about Muirin?
Muirin and Taimi and Paiviki definitely go on more adventures. One of the things that I think they wanted to do was go visit or return to that one elf village that was between Saltwall and Sakura, and convince them to be part of the banded free towns. I think there's probably other. Sorry, lost you guys. There's other adventures too, but I think one of her big returns is going to Saltwall to meet up again with the other elf.
That other elf who was there, yeah.
And then also the orphan, and practice, teaching her whatever nature stuff she wanted to learn, or
like being a kind of traveling, occasional auntie who visits, and like you go back and occasionally see this kid as they grow into a teenager and then a young adult, like with your occasional visits coming to like teach her the ways of the world.
Definitely. Definitely making sure that that they're not as orphaned as they are. I think there's a little bit of a possible future where they travel. If not the whole group, Muirin at least travels back to where she originally was from, just to see if it was as she remembers or if things have changed, and figure out where the people are if they've left and that kind of thing. Let's see.
Maybe would that be a good place to leave, to like Muirin going off to find that the remains of that community, her elf kind of homeland, like would that be a good way to close it, or are there other things Muirin wants to do?
No, I think that makes sense, and with it is just like the always the knowing that she'll be able to come back to Reuna and Solwall and see everyone again. And
She has a family now. Wasn't your original, it was Elf Wanderer, right? Wasn't that your original
yeah,
villager class?
That's a great
the
class.
class of Wanderer. So she does keep wandering, which is yeah.
So sometimes with friends on adventures and other times on her own wandering.
Mhm.
Maybe she
Yeah.
wanders with that orphan sometimes too.
Exactly. Yeah, right. Like when that one gets old enough to like go on adventures and stuff,
Yeah.
it makes sense to do those wanderings too.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. And how about Taimi, John?
Paimi has really changed over the course of her time adventuring with her friends. She had a disappointing childhood and held a lot of anger and resentment and distrust because of that. And she's had to come face to face in a lot of different ways what it means to trust other people and what it means to have real anger in your heart and how to kind of understand it. I think the first thing she does, like on more or less the short term, is go into like fantasy therapy. Like has like meetings with Tinny where she talks about her feelings and she talks about this great darkness she held inside of her, you know, her encounter with the Heinen, the curse of rage, you know, she worried that, you know, that potential could still lie in her. And so she goes through like a long period of therapy. And just as the other two have said, she goes on other adventures. But I think the difference is that whenever an adventure comes up that is about like statecraft or trade, you know, I think it's inevitable that when the kind of timing matches up with the first time that they're going to deliver the ore, you know, or they're going to send somebody to be present at that conversation with Rupa and the Colkeen, Taimi, you know, says no. You know, Paiviki and Topias and Muirin are better suited for that. And instead of being ashamed of what she can't do and fearful, she's proud of what she can do. So she goes on all these adventures, you know, as long as they're in her wheelhouse. And I think on one of the trips with them or just Muirin to Saltvallen and the elf village beyond, she starts thinking about how transformative that experience was and what a powerful ally and friend Saltvallen is. And she decides as a long-term project to make a road, to make a safe passage road, as safe as the one through the grasslands, through the highlands, through the realm of the River King to Saltvallen.
Wow.
And that becomes a long-term, because that's what she's good at. She's good at surveying the land.
Right. Cutting trail. Yeah.
The land. And, you know, it takes a long time. She goes back and forth dozens of times, routing it, rerouting it, beating paths, you know, carving ties, you know, making lean-tos and waypoints, you know, making it safe. And then she, you know, starts going back and forth with different parties of people. And, you know, whether this comes to pass or not, but I would think it poetic if over time she sees the composition of those parties change. You know, it's people from Saltval. I can't remember the name of that group of people.
Oh, right. Neither can I.
It's not Mensa. We're Mensa.
Written down somewhere.
My notes, got my pile of notes.
I'm sure I have it somewhere too. Anyway, like you know, at first it's people from Saltval, it's people from Reuna, and it's pretty much like one group or the other. But over the years, the composition changes, as the towns are intermingling, Colkeen, Metza, Elf, Salt Valian, and that gives her great happiness. And I don't know if she survives it all. I don't know where she ultimately meets her end. But I think because it's a dangerous world, you've designed a hard Scrabble game, my friend. And whether she survives to a ripe old age is unknown. But for the immediate, at least 5 to 10 years after this adventure, she continues to adventure and kind of live amongst these lands, and make them safe for other people to experience what she experiences. She calls the road Lasien Pa, which is the glass end, which is the best translation I could find for what she imagines an ocean would look like.
Oh, great.
Taken by that first glimpse of the ocean. And I think the final scene of her is, she's taken one of these groups composed of laborers, merchants from Salt Vallon up to Rayuna, and they're stopping at the last waypoint, the Cave of the Beast. And Taimi is sitting on a ledge singing a song that Paiviki taught her. And some kids, because now the road is safe enough that children can travel on it. And some kids are like, oh, I can't go one more day. And Taimi motions next to her and she points out over the distance and she says, see there, the lights brighter than the stars. Tomorrow we'll be there. That's Rayuna.
I got a little something in my eye. Perfect. Thank you. I don't think there's anything more to say on that front. The people are called the Venati. I just looked up.
Oh yeah.
I would say roll credits, but I don't want to see any words over that landscape. I don't want to see any the name of the gaffer and whatnot. Just enjoying that last moment. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you.
Thank
That was
you.
great.
I was
Thank you.
That was great. That was amazing. Like I was saying, telling my kids just today, it turns out that this is the best campaign that I've ever run. Most enjoyable one anyway, not least because more show and tell for anybody who's watching, not least because of the handmade leather map of, speaking of the travels of Taimi and friends, that was gifted to me earlier this evening. Beautifully rolled up. And the my longbow. Oh my God, Donna, this is amazing. The miniature longbow. You may recall that Taimi and Miran both crafted longbows. This is a miniature longbow that shoots. Let's see if I can hit the camera. Bounce back and hit me. Miniature longbow. Also a box of Miran's special so red, like there's red cap, yeah. There's Rayuna River Water, Isomat's Bane, and Lockfinger. Miran's special mixtures. All of which is to say, thank you for an incredibly satisfying and entertaining and enjoyable 40 sessions. It's been great to have regular contact with you guys over almost 2 years.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like we started in like November or something.
Mhm.
2019.
Yeah.
This whole
was looking back at the early videos and we all look a little bit different. Different haircuts. And
Yeah.
stuff.
Less pandemic lines around
Yeah.
our faces.
Yeah, thank you, Jason. Thank you, everybody. This was
Yeah.
a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I really got so much satisfaction gaming and social and emotional through this. So this is great.
Yeah.
I'm so interested to watch more of the other stuff with the Freebooter system, because I'm interested to know like what we, because this all started as a test drive.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to see like what sort of things have changed. The new weather thing, that's fun.
Yeah, it's pretty basic. I looked at all the pre-existing weather stuff for these kinds of games, and it's all quite detailed. And all this one is like the weather gets better. The weather's as you would expect for this climate and area, or the weather it gets worse. I mean, it's worded a little nicer than that, but it so far it's done the job really well. And in the other campaign that I'm doing, the Western Marches thing, the Western Wilds thing, we use it quite a lot, and it's quick and easy, and it does the job. So I'm pretty happy with that part. And then we're trying out. We got a bard, a ranger. We got 2 bards actually, 2 bards, 2 paladins, and a ranger in that game, and they're still being run through their paces.
I'd love to see the ranger playbook. I'd love to see them all, but it'd be very cool.
Yeah, I'm gonna upload new ones to the playtest folder soon, so I'll let you know when that's up there.
I know that it's late especially for our East Coasters. I guess my last thing is I'd love to see the map.
Do you now? You want to see it? I remember there was a time when you were like, because the campaign wasn't over yet, and you were like, I don't want to see the map.
Yeah. No, I've literally shut my notebook. Like, I don't know if this. Oh.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a whole lot on here you haven't seen. I mean, some of the dungeons I created are not visible here because they weren't actually on the map. But I don't know if you remember. See if I can zoom in a little bit. Over here, so this is the whole River King. This is where Taimi's road would go, right? It would go from Rayuna past the Cave of the Beast. You have to find a way over that crazy cliff where you went, where Topias fell.
It would probably go through the Drompulse stand.
Right. Yes. Right. Because the cliff. Yep.
Gradual decline. Yeah. And I mean, it probably takes longer, but yeah, you don't go down the cliff and you give a wide berth to the river.
Yeah. And I think that this is the kind of thing on your first journey, you didn't even know about the terrain. So over time, Taimi would learn about this easier way, I think, to get to Salt Wall.
Mm-hmm.
But over here to the west of the Devilwood, there was a hint dropped about I can't remember what it was called. There was a hint dropped in an early, I think it might have even been in the Beasts cave, about this place called, what the fuck was it called? Anyway, it was like some mysterious place. The Misty Tooth. Do you remember that? The Misty Tooth?
Yeah.
So that was it turns out that was a whole abandoned, ruined city, shrouded in mist, that was populated by these crazy gargoyle creatures. And then the other one was over here. Do you remember when you went to Midjarvion that you took that crazy goat trip, the epic goat journey?
Yes.
And there was a point at which you encountered some, I think it was giant footprints, possibly, or you heard stories about a giant that lived in that area.
Yep.
So there's a place up here north west of Midjarvi called the Haunted Head, and that was the domain of this giant that stalked the lands around there. Those were 2. I'm trying to think if there were any other. There were other things in Watcher's Climb that you never encountered. And I can tell you what was on the other side of that crevice, or I can leave it a mystery.
The one north of John Murray.
No, the crevice that the goat people protected. to the ice world that Jan was talking about.
Oh.
But there were other crazy. There was a whole there was like a whole settlement of bird people who lived up in the Yoenmuri, who were worshippers of Vihainen.
Oh no.
Well,
And you never ran afoul of them.
the big, huge shocker for me is that there's nothing east of Sakagara. I was under the impression that Sakagara was a big city, but it wasn't the capital.
That's right. The capital is up here at the north.
Oh, okay.
This is the capital here.
I'm turned around. Well, I mean, go figure. Tiny's map's very wrong then.
Shows you about mapping. Yeah, the capital is like day's march from Hukurut, and then from the capital to Sakagara, it's like a 2-day trip.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there are more settlements out here on the coast. I just never got around to developing them.
Yeah, sure. Okay. But it's still, I mean, still the fact that there's nothing east of Sakagara, I envisioned that it was just like a vast land. I mean, you feel even more hopeful that like in some ways the Colkeen kind of have like the ocean at their backs.
Yeah, they do. They totally
They
do.
don't have this endless expanse of resources and land, which is probably why they're so hungry, but they just need to play nice.
Yeah. They're going to have to settle, it seems like. I was imagining that word would get around and that there would be Sakagara would be the next to kind of throw off the shackles.
Whoa.
That was going to be probably the next thing.
Yeah. What did you have in your brain about the Icelands, or in your notes?
It is a gateway. So there's multiple planes of existence, and that is a rift that connect. It was like a randomly rolled terrain feature, planar rift, and then combined with the creatures of the goat people, and then the way that magic has been working so far. There were actually a couple other rifts, and in fact, one of the books that belonged to that sorcerer was about. Do you remember in the notes in that book he had an uncle he was mad at?
Yeah.
So his uncle was the one who lived in the Misty Tooth and who was actually studying the rifts. And there's one in the Motherwood too, and trying to find ways to draw power from the rifts. And so that on Watcher's Climb, that was a rift into the to like another dimension essentially, where it was just like a dimension of ice and frost, where like ice elementals and stuff would come from.
Wow.
I loved that moment in Watcher's Climb when you guys were lost and Paiviki tuned into the Weave of Force, and then because I was not prepared for that, but this rift did exist, and I was like, oh well, there's magic coming out of this place or flowing into this place, so there's like a current that you can follow.
Yeah,
that was such a great happy accident there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that having the little bits of knowledge that you have in place of what's happening in the world, and then seeing what we do, is such a cool thing when you're like, oh, I know the answer to this already. I think that's what Paiviki would be hunting down, is just like going into the Motherwood and trying to understand the connections between all these worlds, disappearing for long periods of time, probably.
Yeah, maybe going to other worlds.
I think when we first started the game and you threw out all these names of books and like all these bits of information and clues, that was a little bit overwhelming. And I was kind of like, oh my gosh, how much planning has Jason done? There's like all these maps and like little bits of information. And I think I've always been curious about that, because I'm like, gosh, there's so many things we could be trying to follow up on, all these leads for years.
Yeah. The secret is just to like throw down the hooks, see which ones you go for, and then develop those, right?
Right.
And in those cases, I think I think I just started to develop the Misty Tooth because I think you guys have been talking about maybe going to find it. So I was like, oh, I better work on that a little bit. So I had some of that developed. Not fully worked out because I wasn't sure if you were going to go there or not, but it was starting to. So anytime you were like, but that's why at the end of every session, I was like, what do you guys want to do next time? And so if there were any holes, then I would go figure that out. So when you decided to go into Watcher's Climb, that's when I basically dug into that and figured out what was there. And then, what you do is you end up finding the connections, but it's got to fit with everything else going on. And that's the fun part, right? It's like you guys make a choice, and then that is a prompt for me to like figure out some stuff, and then I put that stuff in front of you, and then you make other choices, and it just that's the pleasure of the whole thing.
Oh, what a rush.
It's amazing.
Way to bring it home. Way to bring it to a close. That was a great just imagining what, also it's so interesting to do something that's basically a game that comes out of the murder hobo tradition, right? Where it's a bunch of people wandering the world, murdering monsters and getting treasure, to have a game, to write a game that emulates that, and then to have you guys able to like not go that way, to like take that basic idea but then turn it into a story about community and personal growth, and like all the character stuff that happened was so great with you, and with like the way you interact with NPCs and the relationships that developed, and like all that was so great to see that old school D&D model kind of become something else, like anti-colonial. That was cool too.
I mean, I would offer that I think part of what kind of affected the big ideas of the game and some of that trajectory is just the funnel. Just the fact that like the funnel was designed for us to have civic pride and save that like prioritized a community and well-being. We're all banding together. And I mean, I think any of the funnels do that, right? Because you're grabbing, a dozen, however many villagers, and you're like, okay, we're all fighting towards this common thing.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And I think that coupled with the presence of this kind of, militaristic colonial force, that really solidified that. I don't think any of us had it in us to like just be like, okay, well, let's go to the Misty Tooth and like grab some gold, and, like, what was going on in Rayuna.
Yeah,
it's true. Yeah, we didn't have really that much of a gripe with like the goblins that lived in the caves. We're just like, leave them to their skulls, but the Korkeen,
fuck those guys,
because they were the ones taking over our villages. So
right, it was nice to have the Korkeen, and then it was nice to have like a god of chaos.
Yeah,
who has like a gross, nasty cult at his back. Like there's a clear foe that you can try to deal with. But those poor goblins were just doing their own thing.
Yeah. I think that was Taimi's foray into like getting more treasure. I think that's even more John Chidurgeon was like, I don't want to leave this particular stone. Like you dangled a lot of carrots in front of us, but that particular carrot, I was like, I really just want to sink my teeth into that. Because I also think it was at the end of a long string of diplomacy. But yeah, definitely those goblins didn't do anything to us. We got out of there.
It is totally interesting. Like what kind of a story are you gonna tell? Like what's the big arc? Definitely kind of like care for the village is like the origin story, because that's how the funnel starts.
Yeah, right.
I've just been watching a lot of the videos that you guys have been posting from the moon,
other one.
what's it called? Moon Hadir.
Yeah.
And the setup is like, okay, everyone's there, and these are like jobs you can take to get money.
Yeah.
And so there's stories that are allegiances and like friendships that are developing in the town, but basically everybody's from a separate, nobody has like a real home there necessarily. So it starts very different. Everybody's already a class of some kind.
Right, they're already level 1. They start at level 1.
They have
Yeah.
backstory outside of being farmers and stuff.
And they, if any, and yeah, the human relationships, the relationships develop out of whatever they do together on an adventure. And there's not always the same people playing together. So like, and those relationships are developing like between characters, but it's a very different kind of feeling than being in it from the very beginning, growing up in the same town, all that stuff. Yeah, it's interesting how different it is.
I've been watching it very vicariously. I have to admit, I've been rolling up all these characters that I haven't been able to play. Because I've been like, oh, you know, and I just like rolled up like a vole and like a, you know, desert person and like,
oh my god,
somewhere in here I've got, oh yeah, like a jackal and an owl and
Oh,
you know, these, I just like,
Oh
if
my
only I
God.
had time.
Well, maybe the Western Wilds will still be going when puppet season is over.
Yeah.
Yeah, always welcome to join in, and we'll play again in the future. We'll figure out some other thing to play. We'll make something happen for sure.
Yeah.
All right, it's bedtime.
right.
Thanks for an awesome ride, you guys.
Thank you, Jason.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you for the wonderful gifts. Nobody's ever going to top that. Your job is done. All right, we'll see you next time.
Thanks
Love
for
you guys.
letting me
Love
play
you too.
test.
Bye.
Love you guys.